Welcome to video number 5. And in this video, we're concentrating on step number 2, that's to say writing out all the relevant law. So what does this mean? Well, if you can, start with a definition. Very often you can start most law answers with a definition or description. It's a good starting point. Then go on to write out the relevant rules of law, together with any exceptions that might be relevant. Now, quite often, the question actually is probably going to be focusing on an exception rather than the general rule. But in order to maximise getting marks, it's a convention in law that if you want to write about an exception, you must first write the general rule. It's just the way it goes. And then, if necessary, adding in cases. As to whether cases are necessary, if you think that your answer's a bit light on rules and exceptions, for example, then you might need to add in cases just to bump it up a bit to get some marks. Sometimes also, the actual scenario will be very close to a case, and it might be a good idea to put it in order to actually justify coming to the answer that you're going to come to. As to writing out cases, don't worry about the case name. If you can't remember the case name, then just simply say, in a case where, and go on to describe it. Second thing about writing out cases, the examiner knows the story. He doesn't want all the long background. What you want is just the part of the story that explains the point you're trying to make. So we don't want all the bells and whistles. For example, you might have remembered in an earlier video in this series, I told you about Balfour and Balfour, about the man who promised to pay the wife money to support herself and the children while he was off abroad. And you remember, I then went on to say he never did so, and worse still, he never returned, having found a nicer wife abroad. Those last bits, from while he was going abroad on a business trip, that's not essential to the story. We only tell you that because it helps you to remember what it's about. The examiner doesn't want you to write all of that detail in. Our next video will then actually be doing step 2.